Welcome back to the Detailing Bay podcast. You think of bonded contaminants on paints, but it can also affect glass, and giving your glass a deep clean can not only look good, but it's hugely satisfying. In this week's episode, we're talking glass care, and we'll take you through deep cleaning, maintenance, sealants, and even screen wash. As ever, Dave is here. So Dave, first thing, do you tackle glass the same way you tackle paint?
To a degree, yeah. There's no products that you use on your paint that you couldn't use on your glass, but there are also some additional products that you can use on glass that you wouldn't use on paint. So the biggest one is a glass polish that contains cerium oxide. So that's quite different to like your compounds you use on your paint. That generally would be aluminium oxide. Cerium oxide is a lot tougher, and with glass being a tough surface, you don't have them same worries. But what it will do is when you get your wipers, and there's a clear difference between where your wipers go and where your wipers don't, and you get that build up, you need products like cerium oxide to break that down. That scuzz that having your windscreen will go through so much.
So when you're correcting your paint, you're taking a bit of the lacquer away, but on glass there's no lacquer. But are you effectively polishing that up so
you're using the better way of looking at it is you're using the abrasive, because it's going against such a tough surface. If you use just like an aluminium oxide based compound, say Menzerna for instance, it'll just break down prematurely. It'll clean a little bit, but with cerium oxide, it remains for longer. It's harder to break down, so you're cutting through that scuff without causing any sort of impacts on the glass. There is the opportunity to have some level of very, very mild correction. To do this is a little niche. You do need to use a rotary. Ideally, I use a 75mm rayon pad, and you have to work very small areas. If you've got big scratches, wiper marks that are quite deep, the likelihood you're not going to get them out. But very, very light stuff, you can just get it, either, if not completely remove it, get it away, enough of it gone to
improve it.
Yeah. But the biggest benefit of it is how deep it does clean your glass. But even if you've only got a clay bar at home, and a lot of people miss this, they do the paint, but they never think of doing the glass. Cleaning your glass gives it such a fantastic deep clean.
I know, and it's a bit of a no-brainer, because while you're all prepped up out there cleaning your paint, you might as well do your glass as well. And you do see on your clay bar how much crap it's taking off.
Yeah, absolutely. And it will make any product that you're going to go for afterwards a hell of a lot easier to apply, and it will last longer as well. You see such a big improvement.
So take us through the process. You've done all your prep work. What's the step-by-step guide to correcting your windscreen, but, giving it a once-over with some abrasives and then protecting it again?
Okay, so like your paintwork, a similar process. I would still advise claying it. You want as clean a surface as possible. Again, you want to get as much gone as you can that way. So when you do the cerium oxide, it is, a plain level field. That's all it's kind of dealing with. It's not contending with bits of bug splatter and anything else that can clog the pad up. So once your glass is perfectly clean, like say clay bars, you can use good strong glass cleaners as well if you don't have a clay bar. Just anything you can give it as deep a clean. You're a bit firmer with glass than you can paint. As long as you're not moving a piece of grit around there, then you're
not going to do any damage.
You're not going to mar your glass by rubbing a bit too hard with a wash mitt or anything like that, like you could with your paintwork. And so clay it if you have a clay bar or a good glass cleaner, or you can even use on glass, like a strong mix of IPA as well, which will work really well. Again, you're not worrying about softening anything and marring, so that's perfectly fine. And once you've got to that as clean as you can get it with the chemicals you have, you can then move on to the cerium oxide. It is worth adding that if all you had is a bottle of Menzerna Heavy Cut 400, which is for your paintwork, you can give your glass a good clean with it. It still has an abrasive in there.
Still going to benefit you.
It's still going to bring it up. So, don't write it off. It'll still make a big difference. Just make sure you remove all residues at the end. But yeah, say you have got it. You've got the perfect setup. So there's two approaches. You've got a dual action or you've got a rotary. So if you're going to do it with a dual action, then the way of looking at it is you're going to give your glass one heck of a deep clean, working in smaller areas. So the average windscreen on a DA with cerium oxide, I break it into 4 sections. You need to keep the area quite moist, so have a spray bottle with some water in it as well. It does dry out, you build up heat a lot quicker. And then the same sort of process you would with machine polishing, just working that area about 1 inch per second, speed-wise, because you're not really going for correction with a dual action, so you're going to keep it at speed. I find 2. Speed 1, the bit clumsy DAs. If you go to speed 2...
How does glass make your pad heat up quicker than paint?
The whole thing, the fact that you're using a rayon pad as well, right. So the whole thing is you can build up a little bit of heat, which to a degree can help, but there is a border you don't want to cross, really. But what happens is the compound does dry quite quickly. So just introducing water all the time just keeps everything nice and fluid. You can tell when you're not using enough water is because you suddenly get it starts to clump a little bit and you can see areas where it's dried out. Right. You want that nice little like oil stream sort of like you get on your paint when you're using a compound. Say you have a rotary, I find using the 75mm pads a bit easier to control, but you can use a 5-6 inch, whatever works for you. Now you're going to break your area down more now, so I break it into 6 or even 8 sections depending on the size. Again, you're going to need even more water now, and like before, as it was like 1 inch per second, you're going to like slow it down a little bit more, say like 1/2 inch or so on.
You need a lot of patience when you're doing your glass.
You do need a lot of patience, but this is if you're just trying to give the glass a good clean, then you can follow the same guide as you would with a dual action. But if there's an area where you've just got some very, very light marks, then focus on them separately and really slow it down and work it. It's a slow process, but you can get some marks out or at least reduce them. But it is a labour of love and it takes time. So the best way of looking at it is if you've got quite a deep mark in your eye line and it's quite pronounced and you can feel it and all the rest of it, then I wouldn't even approach trying to remove it. Just get your windscreen replaced.
That is tempting, because if you've only got like £100 excess on you can on your insurance for a windscreen replacement, you can just skip all that.
As soon as it's in your immediate field of view, people don't realise it. Think you have to have a crack or something else, but you don't. Once it's in your vision, you can get it replaced under that. Right. Your glass should be clear to see out without any distractions, including any sort of marks.
Right. Okay. So let's say you've done all that correction. What do you follow it up with? Do you need a sealant on there ideally?
So I always refer to this as a Marmite product. You either love them or you hate them. And don't let that put you off if you've never used one, because you need to find out for yourself. Because I know people where I've said some people love them, some people hate them, and they were put off. But I said, no, you need to try it. They love it. The biggest problems with it is you're changing the surface tension. So then you are going to get to some degree wiper judder, where it just pulls a little bit. And that's the biggest problem people face. But you also have to weigh up, especially unlit motorways at night with heavy rain, because you've got no light reflecting either. You'll find sometimes, I remember once trying a glass sealant out, come back from Blackpool and there's a stretch of motorway with no lights on it. And it was only once I started to see people coming past with wipers on and that I realised how heavy the rain actually was. And because there's no light reflecting off the beads that are coming onto the glass, my vision was absolutely perfect. Once it came to a lit area, the wipers were on intermittent while everybody else's were on the full speed. And it did make it so much better. But then you come to that where you get tiniest little bit of drizzle and your wiper just comes on once in a blue moon, and you do get a little bit of drag. And yes, it can be irritating. And the problem is it doesn't happen with everybody. And I'm still waiting for somebody to fully explain why A works with B, but then for someone else it doesn't, and so on. But yeah, it's worth just weighing up. They are fantastic. I mean, you can always just do your side glass, pan roofs, all them other areas as well, which totally transforms your visibility as well. But on your windscreen, I think it's a product you need to try, but it's kind of love it or hate it.
I am a fan of them. And on your side glass and rear glass, like one application seems to last forever as long as you do a regular maintenance wash, clean contamination off. And I think you almost have to adapt a little bit. Don't overuse your wipers, because if you're doing 70 on motorway, or you've got a strong headwind and it's blowing a lot of that off, you don't need to just burn through that coating with your wipers. You might have better vision by not using your wipers.
Totally. You've got to let it do its work. Do its job. It's that psychological thing, isn't it? It's raining, you've got a rough idea, so you are instantly going for I need to flip them up from intermittent to fully on.
And I think if you're one of those that sits in traffic and just has your wipers on, you're going to burn through a coat. It's going to get a bit ugly. But I once had an MOT advisory because my wipers were smeary, and I was like, no way, I've got a glass coating on there. And it's just because they were spraying loads of water on and using wipers that are dead still. You know, he's not doing any
yeah,
speed.
And there is coatings out there that some deal with if you're doing, you know, you're not a motorway driver, you're a city driver, to coatings where, you know, you do more motorway miles. Soft 99 being a good example. G-Technic also offer like their G1 and the other Glassient products. One works slightly better at lower speeds, and that's the purpose of them really. So you can tailor it a little bit to your driving style, but they all come with slight annoyances. But I think, you know, it's a small annoyance for having that better visibility.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. So if you've not tried one, I'd try one.
You've got to try it, yeah, without a doubt.
So a bit of digression, but before we wrap this one up, is there a big difference between screen washers?
The biggest way to split it is, there's summer and there's winter. So your summer ones will tend to have stronger degreasing agents in to mainly deal with bug splatter. Right. One of the biggest problems of the summer. When it comes to winter, that formulation changes a little bit, and a more dominant component becomes a antifreeze component. So it's a fine balance. So they tend to, in winter, not be as strong as they would be like your summer ones. They are out there, but what you'll find, even if you buy one from like a supermarket somewhere, you'll normally see them geared. They'll have them out and they're kind of geared for that sort of season.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then you see them later in the year and they'll normally say they've got like an antifreeze property, in which works up to a point. I mean, we have had it where it's gone lower and it's even...
They're not freezing up yet.
And well, it will come to a point where I think if you drop below like -4, I think even they start to struggle. There's only so much of the antifreeze property they can put in, so it works in harmony with like the cleaning agents, and it's not too corrosive for other components it's hitting as well.
Can you get a screen wash that's got rain repellent in to top your screen up if you do have to use your wipers?
You can do, yeah. It's a more diluted affair, and I'm not as much of a fan of it, but I do know people that use it. Again, get on with it really well. It's one of them products you have to try. Yeah. But Stoner do like a washer additive that you can put in, which helps top it up. And in fairness, it works all right.
I've not tried that. I might try it.
Yeah, it is a good product. It's not for the purists who are waiting for the absolute finest of repellency, but it does top it up. If you're kind of just using a quick glass cleaner with a small amount of repellent in there, they both work really well together.
Very good. Top tip. Thank you for listening. Please rate and review us wherever you listen. It helps other people find us. Please join us next time. We'll be back in the detailing bay for more chat on all things car cleaning.